Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Bullish on Business. And today we are super excited to have Brynn Hubbard with us with Pro Image Design. I have been wanting Brynn to be with us for almost 2 years, and I finally got her to agree to come on. Hi, Brynn, how you doing today?
I'm well. How are you, Rose?
I am awake, thank God. Right. Well, let's get right into this because, like I said, this is something we've been working on for a while, and we finally have today is the day. So, you represent something I really, really respect, and honestly, something we don't talk enough about, which is stepping into a family business and not just maintaining it, but actively working to evolve it over generations. You're a second generation leader at Pro Image Design with a background in entrepreneurship, marketing, and management from Central Michigan University. You've been hands-on in production, sales, marketing, operations, like you have your hands in almost every single pot, and you are already thinking about how to build a turnkey model that creates long-term value. I got to get into that for both the team and your community. I know you spend a lot of time out in the community. That's a combination, execution plus vision. That is so rare. So today we're going to talk about what it really looks like to grow a business from the inside out, what it takes to earn, your place in a legacy company. And I know that isn't always easy, and how you're thinking about scaling into the future. Welcome to the show.
Well, I'm glad that you can have me, Rose. She did a great job of introducing me in
Awesome.
a recent CMU, and I'm excited to be on the podcast today.
Fantastic. Well, good. Well, let's get to go it. Let's get into your origin story. Let's start here. What exactly is Pro Image Design, and how did you personally step into this business?
Yeah, so in 1999, my dad, Alan Hubbard, found a passion. He had just moved to the Traverse area and he found a passion for anything branding and signage related. He did a lot of pinstriping on vehicles and lettering windows, and then it turned into vinyl work and some other clean production aspects. And then he got into actually physically building signs, which he won a lot of awards for. I came around in 2003 and to pursue work at Pro Image as a 50-50 partner with my dad. So Tara and Alan hired their first employee, Sandy, who's still with us today, 23 years ago now. Trip or on our Traverse location, she started in Torch River, and since then, since about 2014, 2015, we've grown between 5 and 10% every year. COVID was an exceptional growth for some reason, and then the following years were kind of I mean, it's all very uncertain times, so it's nice to predict where we'll be in 10, 15, and 20 years from now. We just hit 4 million in revenue last year, which is awesome.
That's
I'd say
huge. That's very rare.
yeah, a large aspect of the team, but I didn't come on until May after the strategic planning and back of house work. I grew up doing more of the production. We had a small YouTube stint where that was called So Easy, Even a 12-year-old Could Do It, where I demoed some vehicle graphic installations for customers and everything. Cleaned some toilets and the floors and did some filing when I was old enough to file alphabetically. And then After college, it's been more back of house and administrative stuff and planning for the future.
Fantastic. Wow, that is a great story. And thank you for taking us down memory lane like that. So, second generation leadership, it's not always easy. So, what has been the biggest challenge and the biggest advantage of coming into a family business as the next generation?
Yeah, so obviously a pro is that I grew up in the industry, and so I don't have to learn a whole lot of new things in terms of how signs are made, the materials they're made with, what our process looks like for making estimates and sales and whatnot. One of the biggest challenges, however, is the dynamic of going from an employee to still an employee, but more on a leadership position. I'm not management by any means, and I'm not an owner of the company currently. It's in our succession plan a ways down the road, but um, kind of figuring out my place, especially with employees and team members that have been there longer than I have, working for longer than I have, and even my entire life in Sandy's case. Um, and so even down to, I don't call them mom and dad at work anymore. I call them Tara and Alan, which has been its own adjustment. And coworkers will say, "Oh yeah, your mom or your dad," and we're all trying to flip the switch to be a little more professional and inclusive.
Right, right. That's difficult. Yes, I can totally relate to that. I have a daughter that's come into my business as well, and her daughter, but you're trying to just transition. And like you say, it's some pluses and some challenges, no doubt. And you really are earning your stripes. You've worked in production, sales, customer relationship. How important was it for you to learn the business from the ground up instead of jumping right straight into leadership?
Well, I think it that has a lot to do with earning respect. It's not something that's just awarded, and then boom, you're a an applicable person in the industry. If I came in, like a lot of corporations bring in people that have know nothing about the business and they know strictly about numbers, there's a pushback there and there's a culture shift. And my parents have prided themselves on having an outstanding culture with an inclusive workspace and setting all of our team members up for success, which is phenomenal. There's so many benefits that come with working there that I can finally take advantage of as an employee on payroll. So yeah, they really set the standard for what personally they set a standard for what a successful partnership is, and then professionally what a successful business partnership is and what it should look like. And they've influenced the way that I think, the way that I lead, and influenced the way I define success. Just by example, treating each other as equals, as 50-50 partners in the business. It's phenomenal and it makes me want to be an even larger part, which is kind of my why is to give them a return on their investment, I guess literally making their first employee or like one of the something that show them that not just financially, but it's the person that they raised as an investment to them. They've taken everything that they've poured into me and they've turned it into something meaningful and tangible.
Awesome. Well, I know that we're having a couple of glitches on the internet right now. I don't know if it's because of the ice storm, but I got part of that, and I do
Mhm.
appreciate where you're coming from. The business of earning your stripes. I know that I've known you for about 2 years, and you certainly have the amazing work ethic that definitely is a great reflection on your parents, and I'm sure that they have been waiting a long time to get you in the role that you're in. I know that we worked together on a kind of a little boot camp a few months ago, where we were working on customer centric case studies. So customer centric growth, you focus heavily on your customer outreach and relationships. I've seen you post a lot on social media. What do you think most companies get wrong about managing client relationships? And what are your thoughts around social media and customers?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, I mean, I don't want to keep bringing everything back to COVID, but ever since COVID, it feels like everybody wants to be in person or meet somebody in person, and they take those relationships and it's something substantial. And so to go out and physically make connections and shake somebody's hand is really, really important. It's always been an important thing in the business world, but I think especially in the last 6 years or so. And then I think the biggest mistake that a lot of business owners and people in business or client relationship management is that they assume that their customers are going to keep coming back, even if they don't reach out, they don't say anything, they don't do anything, just because they've been a customer and we haven't had any orders go wrong, but they could develop a much stronger bond with another company in your competition. And they know that person by name and they've shaken their hand. And to assume that they're going to be a step and repeat customer, it's something that you need to earn as a business.
That's very, very wise, very, very true. And you guys are growing. I know you do sales in the Northern Michigan market, and you've been working across all of Northern Michigan. And tell us about the regional market, and tell us about your growth recently with your new locations.
Yeah, so 12 years ago was the first acquisition of another sign business. So that brought us out of the current Traverse City market, and that was in Petoskey. It was an acquisition of Sign and Design, which Bob and Aaron Scudder stayed on as employees for a long time, and they're really good friends of my parents. They were the original owners. And then last February of 25, we acquired a family business called New Century Signs in Gaylord, where the woman was looking to retire and to sell. Her family didn't really want the burden of owning a business. They had the burden for a long time, and so it's been a great relationship with the family. Carrie still works out of our Gaylord location, and I work with her usually 2 days a week. I bounce between Travers, Petoskey, and Gaylord as the sole networker slash client relationship person. So that means a lot of cocktails and connections and business after hours and state of the communities and some galas here and there. So I do keep a pretty packed schedule, but it keeps everything really exciting and fresh. And I like being able to establish my own connections, not just people that knew my parents.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's really cool. And you do bring so much new breath of fresh air, I'm sure. So, what is this whole turnkey business concept? You mentioned working toward a turnkey model. Break it down if you don't mind. What does that mean to you, and why is it so important?
Yeah, so a lot of family dinners, a lot of, anytime you're hanging out with people that you work with, it's a habit to talk about business. And, as the business has expanded, we're in 5 locations now. I forgot to mention that we also acquired a location a couple doors down of our established Traverse location. We're calling it Traverse City West, and that's where I am today. Um, you have a lot of frustration, things that you can't necessarily grieve with team members or colleagues about just because it's inappropriate.
Hmm.
Um, I say you, I mean the owners of the company. So they have to work through these business challenges independently. And with our growth, we've been experiencing a lot of growing pains, which means, there's a lot of eggs in the basket, especially for my dad right now. So his days are anywhere between 14 and 16-hour days during the week, probably a lot more. He goes to bed at 11 p.m. after answering emails and he wakes up around 5. We'll get our first email again. And I see the stress that it causes, and I want to alleviate any of that I can. And a turnkey model is essentially you can walk away without anything causing a fire. You don't have people relying on you so heavily because there's a trust in the ability of the team members that are working that we have a phrase, GSD, they will get stuff done. So. Yeah,
I
that
get
essentially being able to
it.
step away, go on a vacation, God forbid.
Right.
Um, and it doesn't result in a lot of things going wrong or not getting done.
Hmm. Well, that's a great aspiration, and you want him to get more of working on the business than in the business
Hmm.
sort of approach. And uh, operations it is really where I think you'll see that. And a lot of people glamorize this entrepreneurship, and you're really deep into operations. What are some of the unsexy realities of running and scaling? You've mentioned those super long hours. You've got 5 locations. That's so many different things going on at the same time. Um, so what are some of the realities of that type of growth?
Yeah, I would say we just hired 2 people actually within the last 2 weeks. And so our team has expanded. We're now 24 people. And if you think about the amount of dollars per person that we're making, it's quite significant. But at the same time, I think CEOs and people looking to purchase businesses, they want to see that $200,000 a person mark, and we're not quite there yet. I think that a lot of the frustrations are about miscommunication or undercommunication, or just a lack of trust that something's going to get done, not necessarily because a team member wasn't fulfilling a promise to begin with, but because it's happened with a team member that is no longer on staff 5 or 6 years ago. Or, um, it's hard if you don't align your team with the goals of the next 5, 10, 15, and 20 years.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we've combated a lot of that through showing them exactly what our strategic plan is. We're gonna automate more tasks and we're gonna hire some reinforcement staff to alleviate our highly skilled workers into the more billable work that they are paid to do. We don't want a designer to sit here and quote a job for hours. We want them to design and do what they are hired on staff to do.
Mm.
Or we don't want a fabricator, having to sweep the floors when he's done, when he's paid to run and operate the CNC router or other various machinery or be in the paint booth.
Wow. So I have a question about that. So you have 5 locations.
Hmm.
Uh, do you have a central location where the signs are actually made and produced? And and where's that? And what do the satellites do? That that how do you decide what job goes where?
Yeah, Traverse is our largest location. We call it headquarters. Not to associate with a corporation by any means, but um, that's kind of our central. That's where we have our team alignment meetings every year and the summit meeting. That is where a majority of our dollars come out of, and we have 16 people in that location, 17 now.
Mm.
Petoskey, because they had so many existing clients, they usually have anything north of the Eastport area and up through. We do jobs in the UP sometimes. Petoskey usually specializes in anything carpentry related or more skill. No, I don't want to say skilled. I want to say things that take longer to build. So, wood grain signs that stay on the router for a very long time, or things that are airbrushed and, meticulously painted, or vinyl application is very screwy sometimes. So, those are our most skilled and most artistic people, that have been doing it for a very, very long time. Travers is more of our fabrication shop. So things like metal and basically any job that's worth over 20,000, $25,000. It's all fabricated in-house. We have a channel letter bender. Those are the big sign letters that go on to the side of a building or they light up in the middle. That's actually really cool because it means that we don't have to outsource any of our work. It's all done in-house. And then Gaylord really is kind of a weird market. It's been very small, like one or two decals for a customer, or it's been, hey, this is one of the locations of our company, and we need you to brand every single one of our vehicles and our warehouse and all this stuff. So we have, you know, uh, low profitability and high profitability jobs, but that's strictly a vinyl shop, and we fabricate whatever is needed in one of the other two locations, and then we bring it there, either myself, my mom, or my dad, when we're driving to different locations.
Wow. I had no idea. It's interesting because when I think about your business, you are a retail, you are manufacturing, you are process, you are design. You have like almost every aspect of any business in your business. It's
It's very
fascinating.
niche as
And
well.
you
Yeah.
need to understand chemistry, you need to understand metal and dealing with different substances and different design aspects, color. It's fast. I never thought about all of the intricacies. When you look at the jobs that you do, how many do you do from A to Z, all of it, or how much do you actually do outsource some of the tasks?
Yeah, so we've been in the last 10 years or so, we've stepped away from apparel. We sold our embroidery machine and we don't screen print. It was a low profitability thing. It took a lot of time to set up and tear down, and we were just spread too thin. The same thing happened with promotional items. And so things that are, quick turnaround online, things you could get off Vistaprint, we have a supplier that's pretty much all we outsource for is just the, onesie twosie promotional jobs for good customers that we have that exist. And we still supply design and artwork. So they know exactly what it's going to look like. They don't have to log in and create a Canva account or something like that, which is nice.
That's a big headache. And I know that they trust you with their logo. They trust you with what you designed for them. And so I bet that's so good. Even though you do outsource it, you still are owning the quality and the design of that for them. And I'm
Well,
sure
yeah,
that they
absolutely.
totally
And
need that from you.
when it comes in, it's we have a standard. One of our core values is high quality work, and even though it's outsourced and we didn't do it, we want to make sure that it's to our standards. But as far
Mhm.
as everything else, from an inquiry to logo design, traditional design and engineering, we have a production team, and we have a fabrication team, all the way to installation. We do permitting, so really you don't have to do a whole lot of research into signs to be able to purchase one, which is really nice because we have such a unique and very educated team to help you get through all the checkpoints you need.
I have so much respect for your business. I love doing these podcasts because I fall in love with everybody I do a podcast with because people rarely understand all that it takes to do certain things. And I had no idea running a sign company is so complicated with so many different processes and procedures. And now you're doing it across 5 locations. Unbelievable. So you're a very young entrepreneur, but you've grown up in the business. So you're very early in your career and you're already thinking strategically. That's an interesting mindset. Where do you think young entrepreneurs need to actually, to be a success? You have had the advantage of seeing this business really your whole entire life. What would you like to tell a young entrepreneur that maybe they're blind to just because they're new and maybe they just don't talk about it? What would you say to that young entrepreneur that haven't had the eyes on the business like you have all these years?
I would say that connections really do matter. It's all about who you know and who knows you. And so having an in with a customer can be as simple as shaking their hand one night at a networking event, or it can be as complicated as they were my babysitter growing up, and they're very heavily in my family. We just did work for my piano teacher. So, um, I would say that connections really do matter, and putting yourself out there is really, really important because people will surf the web for a sign, and unless they can put a face to the brand itself, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter how heavily branded you are coming from a branding person. If I'm looking at one logo versus the other, it's like, okay, but oh, I know somebody from there. I want to go
Yeah.
with them.
It really makes a difference. And I know that you have spent time with the Grove, and you and I met at Oops long, long time ago. I know you just joined Traverse Connect. And so you're putting your money where your mouth is. I really enjoy you when we get to see each other at the Oops meeting. You always had so much to the table. And that is really a great networking event. When you started going to Oops and working at the Grove, what was the big thing that surprised you when you actually did get shoulder to shoulder with all these other startups? And what was your point, what was your point of view on that?
They were all so much less intimidating than I was making them out to be. Oh my gosh. I thought that a business owner was some really tall guy in a suit all the time that, from the movies was like emotionally unavailable and is too busy to talk to anybody. And that's so not the case, at least especially in Traverse, because all of these entrepreneurs that come to the Office of Possibilities, they're all looking for ideas and looking to socialize, and they want to create something that they don't have in their business already. And so they want ideas to bounce off with, and they want opportunities to get their business out there, um, or to create an image of themselves. And so they're really not as big and scary and bad as they're made out to be in the movies.
Well, I think that's partially because you're so inviting and warm. And one of the things another thing I noticed that you do is that you spend a lot of time working with some of the local schools and their career fairs. Can you talk to us a little bit about why is that so important to you? And tell us
Yeah.
where you're going to be. I know you have a very busy schedule this spring. Tell us
Yes.
about why you do it and where you're going.
So we just did, we were supposed to go to a second career fair since the beginning of the year, but with the ice storm, it didn't happen. But we went to Harbor Springs at their CTE hiring event, which is all trades students. high schoolers that are looking for a career after high school. And that was a lot of fun. We got a lot of our branding stuff together. I have a bunch of handouts for our apprenticeship programs through Northwest Michigan Works, and I have handouts for our benefits and our training opportunities, the hiring positions, and the places we're hiring out of currently. We were supposed to go to Boyne City. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but next week we have one for NCMC in Petoskey, North Central Michigan College. It's more of an academic area. It would be somewhere that we hire people to sell or to design or engineer something computer related, not necessarily hands-on, but they do have programs like that. CTC is on Thursday. The Career Tech Center in Traverse. Those are more hands-on students that are looking to work with their hands, and we're hiring for a fabricator in our Traverse office. It's a great problem to have. We have too much work. Um, and then Friday is NMC, Northwest Michigan College, which again would be like NCMC. Yeah.
So why do they what are you telling them about your business that would compel them to seek a job with you?
Well, we premise with we're looking to hire highly motivated people, and a lot of younger people that haven't explored a whole lot of career options yet haven't thought about signs. A lot of adults don't really think about signs until you start talking to them about them. And they're like, oh yeah, I guess there is an industry in that. We just hired a designer in November that really didn't know much about signage, and then once we did our first interview, she's like, I keep looking around and I keep thinking about how that one's made. And so once you put an idea in somebody's head, then you know you plant a seed and
Yes,
and
you
it'll
you kind
grow.
of watch it all percolate
Yeah.
and see it grow. I bet that even at your young age, isn't it wonderful to see those that kind of that wake up moment? Isn't that
Hmm.
awesome?
Yeah.
It's very cool. Well, I'm very curious. What is your future vision? I know that you have the utmost respect for mom and dad, and you are totally in love with pro image design, and I am too now. So let's just go out maybe 3 years, maybe even pushing it to 5 years. What role do you, Brynn, want to play in that evolution?
Yeah, I would love to let my parents retire as soon as possible. Um, I'm afraid I still have some more work to do in that aspect, which is why our succession planning doesn't start for 5 years. But the goal is to grow by 10 to 15% every year for the next 15 years. So
Wow.
ultimately, we would be, a 20 some $1 million sign business throughout
Awesome.
Michigan. Yeah, which is
Yeah. Well, you
cool.
need to come to Cadillac. I know right the building. There's a building right down Boone Road. There was a sign business in there and he's gone. I don't know what happened to him, but it's a beautiful big building and we need a good sign company in Cadillac, just kind of pulling your chain a little bit. So that's a huge vision and I know you can do it. I know it. Hey, Bryn, you've been amazing. You are awesome. I love your humility. I love your willingness to learn. And I just think that you have a great, great future ahead of you. Before we wrap this up, I'm going to leave it with you for 1 second. What would you like to share with our audience?
Yeah, so I have our Traverse City open house is on April 30th from 3:30 to 6 p.m. And it's mostly a celebration of joining the chamber. We're doing a ribbon cutting, and then this location, Traverse City West, a few doors down, um, we're celebrating the acquisition of this the last year. And we are going to be it's like a national signing day for NFL of our apprentices signing on to Pro Image. So we'll have, a photo session, and we'll have charcuterie and small hors d'oeuvres. But
I'll definitely be there.
yeah.
I know that a lot of other Oops people will be there as well. So you're going to have food. You're going to give
Hmm.
some recognition to your team.
Oh,
You're
absolutely.
going to do a ribbon cutting with Traverse Connect.
Yep,
Wow,
just
it's an
lump it all into
action-packed
one.
day.
Yeah.
You got to be there. And we'll put that in the show notes if you missed the date or time. And we'll also put in the address. So, Brynn, this has been such a grounded and real conversation. What I love about your approach is that you're not chasing hype, you're building capability, you're learning the business from the inside, strengthening operations, thinking long term about your growth. And that's how real companies are built. If you're listening today, my podcast people, and you're either stepping into a family business or building something on your own, take a page out of Brynn's playbook, learn it, earn it, and then elevate it. Brynn, thank you for being on the show. And for everyone listening, go check out Pro Image Design and support businesses that are being built with intention and not just ambition, and who really care about their community, like Pro Image Design and Brynn. With that, we'll see you next time on Bullish on Business. Goodbye, everyone.